Hello everyone and welcome to the video. I'm your host Mohammed Habibullah Budak and I will be talking about different ways of doing gamification for languages. One of the main usage of gamification is applications like Duolingo, where you are doing a lot of challenges, getting experience points, go inside the league, go against other people, challenge other people, competition. All those things are what are pretty common in a lot of gamification apps for learning. In my opinion, that's one of the worst ways possible to actually learn a language. And the reason is because of if you do research on how to actually learn something, then you will come up with the learning pyramid. The learning pyramid, as you can see here, is based on passive learning methods and active learning methods. And in my opinion, those applications never actually go to the active learning methods, because more often than not, you need to read something, you have an audio visual, and you do a little of demonstration. Well, down below you see practice by doing it, 75%. The practice by doing it by the apps like Duolingo are static practices. So what I mean with static practices is you have 10 sentences or 20 sentences in one challenge, and those 20 sentences come over and over and over again, and you don't have more than that. So you are just learning those sentences, and after those sentences you are done with that application, with that challenge, with that level, and you will not be learning anything new from that level. And most and often than not, you don't really understand the language from that or the logic behind that specific thing that they have taught you. You are just learning a specific way to say hello, specific way to do the greetings, introduce yourself, or someone else introduce you, or just time. You don't really get all the times. Like if you do the timing, like I have done time several times, like at level 2 of time, so you need to do some things like 5 times and 5 times or 50 times. You do this 50, 50, 50, 50, 50, and you keep doing and doing and doing and doing, but you don't learn anything new after the 10th time. So it's again the same thing, but just repeating of the same things without actually learning something. So if you do this, you will not be able to actually practice doing times, because you only get 2 times, 10 past 10 or 10:30, like specific sentences, which is not practicing but just seeing one demonstration. So you never get actually outside of the 30% of the passive learning. So that is why it's bad in actually learning. But why is it bad in gamification? With gamification, they are only using gaining experience points, doing challenges, competing with other people. If you are a first year student or second year student, you must have gotten the lessons from Marilla, which teaches us about gamer profiles. I will go short about this, but what gamer profiles is just how you can determine what people like within games. Like, what do they like about games? If I open those images up, let me show them to you. Those are gamer profiles. It is my own gamer profile. I am quite broad. I like quite a lot of things, but that's not that much important. But what's important is what Duolingo does is just focusing on competition, challenge, and completion. You don't really have any excitement, fantasy, design. You don't have really mastery, but you have achievements. You don't have social. There is no creativity. There's no immersion. So it just focuses on specific people that can actually work. And if you look at the application or do a little bit of research in who does it work, who doesn't it work, it most often than not, it works on people that actually like challenges, competing against other people, or completing things. But if you're not one of those people, then you won't even like this game to begin with, and then you won't even start at the first 30% of passive learning because it's not even for you. So you will not even get to that part. So in my opinion, that's a bad way to actually teach someone, and also a bad way to actually keep a player going for that game, because it's just one specific group. So I created, or my whole project was to actually prove that there is a better way to doing this, and that you can learn a language while doing something else than just the standard gamification that everyone is known for. So that's why I call it a bad gamification, because you gamify a language without actually teaching the language, but just creating game elements to the game or to the language without actually making use of the language. So you don't use the language, you don't learn something from the language, you're just cramming things up by using game elements. That's not gamification, that's just using game elements on something. So to counter that, to actually do it in a better way, I created a game based on learning Quran Arabic. For my mosque, I am a teacher in a mosque, in our community, in our mosque, I am a teacher, and I teach little kids how to read the Quran. The Quran is written in Arabic, but specifically Quran Arabic. I say specifically Quran Arabic because there is a difference between Quran Arabic and normal Arabic. So Quran Arabic has extra reading lines. So I'm going to show you some examples what the book normally looks like. So the children also, like Duolingo, but just a textbook, have the letters here, cram this up, do it in a different order than they normally use, and then get more and more and keep continuing on to learn, like just going to school and learning something without actually understanding the language, but just cramming it up. So because I don't like that, because it also, when I wanted to create a game, I used Duolingo as an example why it isn't very good at. So I needed to change that to make it a little bit different. So but in Quran Arabic, you have those reading lines, what I'm talking about. It is katama. That's how you say it. It's not very that much important right now, but that is how it's pronounced, katama. But if we have normal Arabic, you will not have those red lines. Those reading lines is very important because in Quran Arabic, when you have those reading lines, you cannot read it any different way. It is like how you read, how it's placed. Those reading lines make it non-negotiable to how to read it. But in normal Arabic, that's a different story, and that's why we need to do the difference now. It's the normal Arabic. I will go very fast. Normal Arabic, that is أحب نفسك, love yourself, or I love myself, and you can read it in a different way because you can read this in different forms. You can read it love yourselves, so more people, or I love you and to a female, or love yourself to a female, love yourself to a male. You can read it in a different way, and that's because when reading, you can put in your mind those reading lines in a different way. So you need context and word knowledge of Arabic. But that's not important here. It's important is that you need to know the difference. So back to this. That is what the children learn, and that is where I will make my game to make the kids learn better the Quran Arabic while using gamification instead of game elements in a language. So that's the difference that we want to create, and an example or to prove that it works is why I made my game, like I said before. So what I did is I created a card game based on a logic in how to read and pronounce the letters so the kids understand what you have to do. So as an example, I will show you level 1. Level 1 is learning the letters. Of course, no matter what you do, you have to cram something up. You cannot change that because you need to know the alphabet of a set language. And at the start, if it's totally different, like Arabic, you have to come it up in a certain way. But because we did the research, we know that flashcard study is one of the best way to learn it. So we created cards, like flashcard study. So we created cards. You can do it like a memory thing. You can shuffle the cards and learn it one by one. So you can do the flashcard study way, but we have one extra thing, and that's what I did. And I use Magic the Gathering editor to be able to do this. But we place the cards and we explain what the cards are. So what is the card? Number 2 is that is the letter B. The B, you pronounce it with the your lips on top of each other and you say B. So I have written that down, but I also have a tip card. So in the tip card we explain that we need to learn the Arabic as words instead of letters. By doing so, I want to use that as a stepping stone for the next levels. So because you have those reading lines, you need to read every letter in a different way. But because it is has a specific logic behind it, I want to make people understand that if you learn it as a word, you will be able to learn it better. And why the person that learning it will not understand it yet, but the next levels I want to make it clear. So in the first level you learn it as words. Then you have level 2, those are without any explanation, so the person needs to know it without looking. So at the third level, that is where it actually starts. That is when you start to understand the language with its logic. So you have here the letter B again. Let me show that in a better way, like this. Yes, okay. So we have the letter B that you saw on previously. So I also have given the tip in the previous levels that you need to learn it as a word. Now you have those extra lines. Those lines are the line above, the line below, and the blue one. So you have line above, line below, and the blue one. I also say that you need to read it from right to left because it's Arabic. So you have here ba, bi, and bu. That's how you pronounce it. But you don't understand it yet. So if you look at the textbook, you don't see any understanding why it's now babi bu. I learned this first as ba, now it's babi bu, or eerst is ta, now it's tati tu. But with this card, I'm giving the explanation. Like if you use the word ba, take the first letter of ba, and you put the reading line on top of it. So ba plus the a makes ba. The ba, the first letter of ba is b, so the b plus e becomes b. The b plus the u becomes u. Those are the reading lines, and in every single card I explain that is the reading line u. So you put this u on top of the first letter of the word that's on top of it. So what it becomes, I have made the cards, and I have here the reading cards. Let me pick them up. So what you have, you will get a card game, as if it's Magic the Gathering or Pokemon. It depends what the kids like to play these days. But you have those cards in a different way. So you have a card, it is set, it's pronounced in a certain way. Then you have a reading card, and then you put it on top of it as an explanation to the kid. So the kid can read it, can write it down if needs to be, like this, can write it down if needs to be, and then it becomes yeah. And if we change the reading card like this, it becomes ye. Now you can add more words, more letters after each other, and it becomes a bigger word, and you can read it in a different way. So that way you not only teach the kids logic or how to learn the language, but also create a more social learning method, because you are playing with the kid together, placing cards down. You have they are touching it, they are physically touching it, and they can use it better, they can learn it better that way. And the reason why I'm saying they learn it better that way is because we go back to the learning pyramid, we are going to the active learning method. We are not only doing the passive 30%, so we're doing the lecture, we are doing the reading, we have audio or visual show, we are doing the demonstration, but we also can do this in a group together with the class where all of them look, and then you can tell the kids, okay, now you need to say kataba, and so the kids need to shuffle the cards and place the cards correctly so that you can read that card. So you have a group practice, you practice together while doing it, and once you have a student that knows or understands it, you can make that kid play together with another kid. So you can also make that kid teach to someone else, and while he's teaching, he will also learn it better. So that's back to the learning pyramid. That's while using the whole pyramid instead of just the passive method. Now, as an example, when we go to the next levels, so you have the different levels, you have the different cards, so you will get bigger words that means different things, but we keep continuing doing the same logic that we learned before. So we have now here waladan. This is how you pronounce it, waladan. You can read it, and below you have the explanation, what it does, but the logic stays the same. You have the letter wow, you take the first letter, you put the reading line on top of it, becomes wa. You have the letter lam, you pick the first letter of lam, the L plus the reading line becomes la. Then you have the new level learning line or second line, and you have in another card the explanation what you have to do. So you have again ba, easiest example, pa with this reading line becomes ben. You just have an extra on top of it. So that is my way of doing gamification to a language. So I choose, in my opinion, with this project, I want to prove that you can do actual gamification to a language instead of game elements like Duolingo. No game elements, but gamification. And you can also make it more fun and playable with kids. As an example, maybe for another language, if we pick Japanese, because I know a little bit of Japanese, and if we use the same example of using gamification instead of game elements, and we use logic so that we can understand the language better, so I'm using the steps that I have explained until now, I would use sentence making for gamification, because in Japanese, sentence making is vastly different than what we do in English or in Dutch. So I would use gamification for how to create a sentence in Japanese. As an example, I can put words in a bowl, make each person in a classroom pick a word, and then the playing person needs to shift a person within the classroom in a set order to be able to form the sentence that the teacher has explained. So you have playing with each other, you can discuss together in how to actually make that sentence while playing it with the whole class. So that's a small example right off the bat, but maybe you can do it differently. So that's my explanation, my tutorial on how to actually use gamification in a language instead of using game elements on something. I hope you learned something from this, and I hope you can use this tutorial or this lecture to make a gamification of the language that you want to learn. Of course, to be able to use this, you need to actually understand the language or understand the grammar and so on as good as possible to be able to actually do it perfectly. But that is on your research and what you can accomplish. Now, thanks for watching, and I hope you learned something. Bye-bye.